Hello, everybody. How are you doing? I'm Dr. Gail, and this is Barbara Lamb. Thank you for coming, Barbara. I'm so excited. I feel like I got a celebrity here. I really do. I'm so excited to have you here. And if people who don't know who you are, you're a world famous ET regression therapist. You're a researcher and experiencer, and you also have written or co-written some books too. So
Yes,
Barbara has been in the ET world forever, and I've been hearing about her for years. And finally, I had a regression session with her that we brought up some important things that I was wanting to know about, and she brought forth. She does a digging, 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 get that information out of you. So I've had experience with her, and it was excellent. So let me say hello to the people in the chat. Hey, Vivian. Hey, Marky Mark. Let's see who else is here. Hey, Teresa. Hey, White Dragon. Hey, Kathleen. Oh, there it goes. My computer goes. Hey, Dream Journey 1. Hey, Faye. Let's say, hey, Mandy May. Hey, Susie 007. And let's see who else. Hey, Spirit Watcher Suzanne. Hey, Darlene. Thanks for coming. Thanks for joining Spirit Watcher Suzanne. There you go. I appreciate y'all showing up. And we have Tina. Hey, Tina. Hey, In-Car. We have an exciting show here. Hey, Isabel. Hi, Diane. Thanks for coming. Hey, Lapo. And let's see, Ralph Thrower. I don't think I've seen you, but thanks for joining us, Ralph. And Hypnicity. Thanks for joining us today. And thanks, everybody. Let's see who I got. Brenda Lee, Strawberry Rhubarb Tarot, Son of Watt, Amanda. Thanks, everybody. We got an exciting show here. Let's see if I got, okay. All right, well, we're going to start. We're going to get to it because I told Barbara what I was going to talk to her about today. And she says, are we going to get to all that? And I'm going, no.
We'll do what we can. We'll do
what we can. And the thing we're going to focus on today is the hybrids. But and as I've told everybody, is I am a hybrid. And the way I found out that I was a hybrid is working on the spaceship. And the spaceship captain told me that everybody who worked up there was a hybrid. And then I was walking away going, wait a minute. I'll work on this spaceship. And that's how I found out I was a hybrid. It took me probably a week, several days to absorb that because it really disturbed me in the beginning. Now I'm all fine with it. Yeah, just fine with it.
I'm glad to hear that too.
It did take me a while. It really took me back going, I'm a hybrid. But so anyway, Barbara, I'm going to start off with asking you your definition. Excuse me. Your definition between a starseed, a light worker, a hybrid, and a walk-in. Because in one of your books, I thought you gave an excellent description or definition of all that.
Well, yes, thank you. There's a lot of commonality between all of those groups that you've just mentioned. I think a starseed is a person who's not necessarily a hybrid. In other words, does not necessarily have DNA from extraterrestrial beings, but they have a connection somehow. It's different for each one. Have a connection with certain extraterrestrial beings, and they might have been an extraterrestrial being in a previous lifetime. I don't know if that's true of all starseeds, but I do know some for whom that is true. So they have a particular interest in the extraterrestrial beings. And particularly, they have an interest in doing a mission here on Earth to help humanity. They would like to upgrade the consciousness of humanity. So they're here to help. They're born with as regular people. Anybody would think that they are a regular person. And they're born of regular human parents right here on Earth. And but they really spend their lives trying to help and to serve the cause of raising the consciousness of humanity. Okay, so then what was the next category that you
Well, that was okay, light workers.
Yeah, light workers, very, very much the same thing. They may not have as much direct connection with the extraterrestrials And again, that varies light worker to light worker. So I'm just talking in great generalities here. But a light worker is here to help to raise his spirituality and consciousness of humanity. So they, like the star seeds, are very much people here of service. They're not trying to earn $1 million. They're not trying to go up the corporate ladder. Although some of them whom I personally know have started out that way, not necessarily to make $1 million, but to get into the corporate world. And they tend to be very responsible people, very intelligent, able people. So if they join the corporate world, many of them have found themselves being raised from position to position, going up the corporate ladder, so to speak. And they could, if they stayed there, have a very brilliant, lucrative future. But somewhere along the line, usually after a few years or maybe several years.
Oh my gosh. We lost Barbara. She'll be back. I saw her hit her computer. We were a little late because she was having technical difficulties, but she'll come back on in just a minute, and we'll get her back on. But anyway, hopefully she'll be here soon. So let me see what I can talk about it. Barbara has quite a few books out there, and the one that we're going to be talking about is Meet the Hybrids. And here it is, the Meet the Hybrids, and it's by Miguel Mendonca and Barbara Land. And it talks about the hybrids, her experiences with the hybrids. And I think it's like 8 case studies about that. She has many ET experiences herself where she has met quite a lot of ETs, which we were going to get into the end. I wasn't sure if we were going to make it there on the end. But anyway, I'm going to send. There she is. She's back.
I don't know what happened. I didn't touch the computer at all.
That's okay, Barbara. Everything has happened on the show, so don't worry about it. We have experienced all sorts of things that are happening, disappearing, electricity going off. I mean, so don't worry about it. We are very used to it. So.
Okay. Well, people very often people who are connected with the extraterrestrials personally, they have experience with them, that they do affect electronics.
Oh, yes, they definitely do.
So
I can give you an example of that. One time when I was talking about reptilians, which I always talk positively about them, but this one time I was talking about the negative side of them, I got cut off like 2 or 3 times. And I went, okay, well, I'm not supposed to talk about them. And it looks like to me I'm frozen now, but hopefully y'all can hear me.
Yeah. Yes. Well, you got frozen for a second. Anyway, so I was talking about the light workers and the star seeds, and so the light workers whom I know are not necessarily particularly aware of being connected with certain extraterrestrials. They may or they may not be, but the main thing is that they have a real spiritual connection, and they're here to help to enlighten humanity by helping them to be much more aware of their own spiritual nature and the beauty and wisdom of the whole cosmos. And they introduce the idea or the reality of extraterrestrial beings living throughout the cosmos. So those groups are both on a mission. And then what is the next group?
The next one would be hybrids.
The hybrids?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, there are 2 kinds of hybrids, 2 major groups. One type of hybrid is the type that is living on the spaceships. They are not living here on Earth. In some cases, they might be able to visit here for a short time, but in most cases, they would not be able to do that, and certainly not able to live here, because in terms of the proportion of their makeup, they are largely proportioned to be extraterrestrial, and they have some human DNA and reproductive material in them too. So anyway, they live on the ships, and they grow up there, and they often help the beings who are working in various capacities, including the beings who work with uh, humans who are taken there for certain encounters. So sometimes people will see them on the ships, usually don't have a lot of interaction with them in all of the many people I've worked with. By the way, I have done at least 5,000 regressions
Wow.
to separate people, you know,
Mhm.
in regard to their extraterrestrial experiences. And that's where the information that I'm sharing with you is coming from, is
Well,
people's personal
yeah.
experience,
Well, I
like
was,
you.
yeah, with me being a hybrid working on the spaceship, I work really closely with the gray hybrids. So,
Very, very often that's true.
yeah. So,
Yeah. And of course, the Greys do a whole variety of things. I think they're most known by most humans who know about them at all. I think they're most known for doing medical exams and poking and probing, and what the public often doesn't really hear, and yet it's very, very true and often happens, is that at the end of a physical exam of a person, they if they detect something wrong in the body, excuse me, they will go ahead and heal it.
mhm.
And usually the healing methods involve some sort of application of light. So sometimes the hybrids are right there observing these procedures going on, and sometimes the hybrids are actually helping
Mhm.
the gray aliens to do these things.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. And
and they
uh,
probably
uh,
do a lot of other functions too that we don't see them doing, but I'm sure that they do. Also, many of my clients in regression have been taken to a room where there are lots of hybrid children,
mhm.
even hybrid babies, and they're all being raised by like a community of the extraterrestrial females.
Mhm.
It's not that they're assigned or adopted to one mother or to a family, a mother and a father, but they're raised together as a community.
I
Seems to be very cooperative.
Yeah, I've seen that very common, but I have seen that also. And also, I do work on a medical spaceship. It's called the Astro Medical One. Was my very first one, and
Oh,
actually, that's where. And because I have a medical background, I've been trained all my life to do what I'm doing now. But
oh,
yeah, so working with the gray hybrids and working with the humans also, and also there's all sorts of hybrids on that spaceship, but mainly the gray hybrids. So I can definitely collaborate your information.
good. Okay, that's wonderful. Nothing like personal experience.
Yes, I have a lot of personal experience because I did a lot of surgeries. I did a lot of implant surgeries, removing of negative implants and different things like that, changing brain waves and balancing chakras. I did a lot of work on that spaceship. But anyway, let's get back
Yeah,
to you.
very good.
And
I'd like to hear more about that.
I have
We
a
need to,
lots and lots and lots of stories because I'm on my third spaceship now working. So I've gone from to my third one now. Um, so I keep getting moved around. But anyway, how about the walk-ins, Barbara? What do you know about the walk-ins?
that's a really amazing phenomenon. I first started to know about that back in about 1990. And when one of my past life therapy colleagues at a conference was talking over breakfast about somebody that she was working with in regression, and they tried so hard to get to the source of all the allergies that poor woman, the client, had, and finally through regression they realized that she had come in from another planet, another species, and had done the walk-in procedure. Anyway, since 1990, I've met several hybrids and talked to them at great length. And it is, and I've had a couple of clients, 2 or 3 clients actually along the way, who I think are walk-ins.
Mhm.
And so what happens is that there is a person here on Earth. It could be a man, it could be a woman. The ones I know are women. But anyway, they get to a point in life, usually in maybe their late 20s or 30s or 40s, early 50s. They get to a point in life when they just really don't want to be here anymore. They're not suicidal. They're not going to try to take their own life, but they've really had it. You
Mhm.
know, they just don't want to be here. They don't see any point in it. So at that time, there is the soul of somebody else, could be from the spirit realm waiting to incarnate, or it could be a soul from the extraterrestrial realm wanting to incarnate as a human. And so that one wanting to incarnate sees the opportunity that here is this woman who has a body, has already grown up, probably is married, probably has children in most cases, and doesn't really want to be here anymore. So she or he, the walk-in soul, contacts the soul of the one who doesn't want to be here, and they decide to make a soul exchange. So at an appointed time and place where the original human person is, they meet, and the soul of the human here leaves, and the other soul from another realm comes into that body. So instantly, that person, now with a new soul, uh, feels different. Sometimes the exchange happens at night, and then the next morning, when the person wakes up, the person realizes, wow, boy, do I feel different today. Because even though it's the same body in the same physical place, usually with a family, um, or at least a spouse, um, but the whole feeling is so different because indeed it is different. It's a different person. It's the soul of the one who, quote unquote, walked in. So that soul lives the rest of that life in that body. And the other soul who left just goes right on into the spirit plane, like we all do after we die.
Mhm.
And that one will have a chance to have a whole wonderful experience in that spirit realm, and then eventually reincarnate if that soul chooses to do that. So anyway, here's the new soul living in the other person's body, and will take on the life, the family life, and the marriage, the parents, everything.
So they have the whole memories of what that person's life was like, so they can just walk in.
Well, they claim that they do have the memories because of the brain,
Mhm.
the body they and the brain contains those memories, but they don't have an emotional attachment to those memories. So if somebody says, "Oh, remember that wonderful birthday party you had at age 8?" So the walk-in person will remember that because it's in the brain, but doesn't remember the excitement and the feeling of that. So that's how it is looking back on everything in that original person's life.
Mhm.
Yeah. So anyway, the whole point of that soul making that soul exchange and becoming a walk-in is so that that soul can have the opportunity to really do the work that it wants to do to help humanity and in some cases to help the physical earth itself. And it realizes it has to be here in a human's body in order to take the actions to get that work done. So all of the hybrids I know are definitely here for service to humanity, as the light workers and the star seeds are as well.
Well, that's
So it's
great.
really, I
Sorry.
think, a brilliant opportunity, and it's a wonderful part of reality that this can happen, so that the original person doesn't have to be here anymore when not wanting to be, and the new one has the opportunity to do anything and everything he or she wants to accomplish here. A really outstanding example of a walk-in, in my opinion, is Sheila Seppi,
Yeah,
who
I've,
is
I've,
Colorado,
I've seen the news.
and
Yeah.
she's doing lots and lots of amazing work of bringing together star seeds and light workers and giving them an opportunity to share their wisdom, their news in programs that she puts on, especially on the internet. She's formed a group called the Galactic Alliance, and they have a whole program called the Conscious Awakening Network, in which light workers and other people who really are trying to help um, can submit videos of inspiration about the work that they are doing. So she's sort of collecting and amplifying very, very good consciousness raising, spirituality raising people and their work, for more people to know about. That's just one example, but she is a magnificent example of a walk-in. She's even written a book called Walk-In Cosmology of the Soul.
Yeah. I
For
actually
any of
have that.
you who might oh,
Yeah.
good. Some of your viewers might really benefit from that too.
Yeah. And I would
So
love to have her on the show too to talk about the
yeah,
walk. Yeah.
oh yes, yeah. So anyway, the Watkins are here for service as well. I think that's just magnificent. Now, I would like to get back to the subject of hybrids
Hmm.
and focus for a bit on the hybrids who are living here amongst us. I had mentioned several minutes ago that there were sort of two main groups of hybrids. One group living on the ships, and the second group are living here on Earth as human beings with substantial extraterrestrial DNA in them. So I think it's very interesting how these people are created. Um, First of all, they're born here on Earth like the rest of us here, and they look like us. They look like regular humans, and they are regular humans, except that they have been given a good portion of extraterrestrial DNA. So the way that seems to happen in two ways. This is all material that's coming from my book, written with Miguel Mendonça.
Yeah.
Uh,
I actually
book
showed
is called,
everybody when you were gone. I showed everybody that book.
oh, good, Meet the Hybrids,
Yeah.
the Lives and Missions of ET Ambassadors on Earth. And that's what they are. They've come to be ambassadors from the star beings, the extraterrestrials. So the way that that occurs, there are two main ways that I know of, actually three. One is that the extraterrestrials will take eggs from the human mother and sperm from the human father, and they will collect that material on the spaceship and they will mix it with a certain proportion of extraterrestrial DNA. Usually, with the hybrids I know, it's more than one species of DNA. It can be up to 6 different types, different species of ETA who've contributed their DNA for this project. And so the DNA from these different species is mixed with the eggs and the sperm, probably in a little petri dish. I sort of picture it that way anyway. And then they remove the mother from her home and take her on the ship and implant her with that little embryo. And then, of course, she, after a month or so, realizes she's pregnant. And if they are going to raise that hybrid on the ship, they will take that embryo from the mother on another occasion after the embryo has gestated, oh, maybe 2 or 2.5 months. They just simply remove it from the mother. She usually isn't even aware of all that. She's out of consciousness when these things happen. And then they raise that little embryo in a tank of special fluid and take it out of the tank when it's time for that fetus to be born. And that hybrid is nurtured there on the ship and taken care of very well and grows up as a hybrid on the ship. But with the ones who live on Earth, they can do the same process, taking the eggs from the mother, sperm from the father, mixing it together with the extraterrestrial DNA, planting it back in the womb, and leaving it in the womb to gestate for the full term of pregnancy. And then that baby is born here on Earth and always lives here, um, and maybe has lots of visits on board this ship with the extraterrestrial beings who have given her their genetics. Um, but anyway, basically lives all of her life or his life, if it's a boy.
Well, that would be me. That's how I was treated.
Okay, very good. Then the other major way is that, and this has happened to some of my clients, is that the mother is already pregnant with a regular baby from a regular husband, and that at about month 5 or 6, she is taken on board the craft and given an injection of DNA from extraterrestrials. So, in other words, it's like one of the extraterrestrials, it's always been a female being so far, in the ones that I have regressed. They will feel her abdomen, feel where the uterus is, and even where the fetus is in the uterus, from outside, and then inject a syringe full of the extraterrestrial DNA right into the fetus. So that fetus grows full term and is born in the way that we do it, and is already hybridized. So those are the two major ways that I know of, but there's one exception to that. One of the women in our book, Meet the Hybrids, was 6 years old before she was visited by the beings, and they injected her with this combination of DNA. And that seems to have been just as effective as the other means. And she definitely has a lot of the characteristics of some of those beings, even though she looks absolutely human and acts absolutely human. But this particular woman I'm mentioning had quite a bit of reptilian DNA as one of the components put in her at age 6. And she has been a lifelong lover of earth reptiles, especially snakes.
Oh my gosh.
And even poisonous.
They obviously didn't put that in me because snakes that's my line.
Well, this woman had a lot of that in her and is absolutely enamored of snakes and totally fearless, even of the most poisonous ones.
Mhm.
And she can also, as many of them can, by the way, can communicate with animals, and they do it telepathically.
Mhm.
These hybrids can communicate telepathically with each other as well,
Right.
and with the beings, of course, uh, whom they came from. So anyway, all of these hybrids are here definitely for service to humanity. And the main thing is to raise the consciousness of humanity and to help us to evolve. So they are doing the work that those extraterrestrial beings would really like to see done on Earth. They want us to evolve.
Mhm.
They want us to evolve enough so that we can ascend, go through the process of ascension, and also to evolve enough to be members of the great intergalactic community, the intergalactic federation, which many ET nations, planetary civilizations, belong to, but Earth does not.
Right.
And many of people who've experienced these extraterrestrial beings have reported the beings say they would love to have Earth evolve enough to justify being a member of that galactic community. But we can't. As long as we continue to have wars and murders and uh, violent acts and greed and all this focus totally on materialism, as long as enough of us are participating in life in that way, the whole human population does not belong to be part of the Galactic Federation.
No.
So, and these wonderful beings, I consider them absolutely wonderful. Um, they they're trying to help to upgrade humanity by creating these hybrids who have enough of their DNA and enough contact with them as well throughout their lives that they would be dedicated to really helping humanity. And that's what these hybrids are here for, really to help humanity.
Okay. So the ones that are on Earth are to help humanity, but the hybrids that they're creating and they're staying on the spaceship that has human DNA. Do you know the purpose of that?
Well, I don't know very much about it, except that they are helping to learn about us humans. Many of the ET species are extremely interested in human beings. And one of the ways that they get to know something about us anyway is by having some of their children who grow up to be adults have quite a bit of human, maybe even half human in them.
Mhm.
So that's one of the ways. But also, I have learned through these experiences of my clients that there are many species on different planets that create hybrids with other extraterrestrial species.
Yeah.
They don't create hybrids only with us people on Earth. They do this
I've seen
throughout the cosmos.
yeah, I've seen quite a few different hybrid species that are not human, and you're just going, what was that?
Right, and they're not distinctly one of the other species. So sometimes uh, Earth people, whom I regress, do see on the ships not only hybrids combined with that species and extraterrestrials, but they sometimes will see hybrids of two different ET species having nothing to do with humans.
Right.
And they have been told in many cases that this is going on and always has throughout the whole cosmic community. All these different planets and different species, and many of them intermingling like that.
Well, it
Like,
makes sense. Why would they just intermingle with humans? Why wouldn't they intermingle with others?
yes, I mean, really, why not? It had not occurred to me for years of doing this work, that would be going on too. I just knew about the combining with humans. So anyway, hybrids look different. Not the ones that were born here on Earth and given the DNA, but those who live on the ship. Um, I think anybody visiting them, as many of my clients have and found out in regression, anybody visiting them will notice that they look like regular children, except that they really do look different. Their eyes might be bigger. They might not have any hair, or they have very sparse, scraggly sort of hair. I think the first client I regressed back in the early 1990s who was seeing a hybrid children on the ship, she saw a group of them, about 7 of them at once. And she said, "Oh my God, they look so weak. They look so pale. They look so spindly." She wanted to take them out in the sunshine. And she wanted to put no more tangles product in their hair because it was all straggly and tangled. And they were nice beings playing on a floor like children do, but she just felt so sorry for them. And she was told by the adult ETs, "Oh, don't worry, they're not unhealthy. They just don't look as robust as you human beings look.
Yeah.
They're fine. They just have very, very pale skin and they're very thin." But that's all right.
Well,
That's
Barbara, what kind of traits do you see of the hybrids on Earth? Since you've regressed so many of them, is there anything common about among them that you're seeing?
yes, definitely so. First of all, they certainly have the appearance of regular human beings. I don't think that most people would ever have a flickering thought that they might not be fully human.
Right.
Well, I happen to be an exception to what I have just said, in that the first hybrid I met, before I knew that there was such a thing as hybrids on Earth, I was at a conference and just came into close proximity with another somebody right to my right side. And I looked around just to see who was there. And I looked into these big, beautiful eyes, much bigger than any eyes I had ever seen before or since. But they looked like human eyes, but they were really big. And I looked startled at her. I mean, she was right here. And she said, "What? Like, why are you looking at me that way?" And I said, "Well, I hope you don't mind my saying this, but you remind me of a hybrid." And she smiled and she said, "I am a hybrid." That was Cynthia Crawford, a wonderful woman. Some of you may know about her. She's passed on about 3 years or so ago, unfortunately, but uh, gave so much wonderful service while she was here. So she was a hybrid, and she spent the last 20 years or so of her life channeling from extraterrestrials, channeling sculptures that she was making of extraterrestrial beings.
She just passed away a few years ago, right?
Yeah, about three,
I've
three,
seen her. Yeah, I've
three,
seen her sculptures.
three and a half, 3.5 years ago, I think. And and here's something notable, that before passing, we were good friends and communicated a lot and had some visits together. And she said before she died, she knew she was going to be dying. And, I asked her how she felt about that. And she said, "I'm really looking forward to it because beings on the ship have said that once she leaves her physical body for good, she will be working on the ship with them."
Mhm.
These were some of the beings that she had so much love and respect for. And she has channeled through a couple of people whom I know since then. Maybe she's done it more than that, but I know of a couple of the channelings, and she's reported that yes, indeed, she is on the ship now, working with the beings, working for the good of humanity still, and is supremely happy to
Good.
be contributing in that way. So anyway, that was what her mission was to let people know about the beings and give them something tangible, like one of these sculptures to have and to relate to. And many people actually testified to her that they were getting messages from the beings whose sculpture they were a model of. And so these sculptures, even though they were made of clay and painted with regular glaze, they seem to have the ability to bring through messages from whatever type of being they were.
Mhm.
So that was great. So that was one. Um, Another one, Julie in Meet the Hybrids book, uh, she has been doing a lot of animal shelter work and animal rescue work and animal communication. She's the one I've referred to, who really was extremely comfortable and loving of snakes here on Earth
Yeah.
and reptiles of all kinds and any kind of animal. Um, and she's giving a lot of service to humanity. She eventually moved into a spiritual community, such as they have in India, but it was here in one of our states. And another one, Jacqueline Smith, is a very accomplished animal communicator and has done a lot of interpreting pet grievances and perspective to their owners when the owners seek her counsel on that. And it always seems to be accurate. And she's done a lot of animal rescue work as well for the police department, humane society, people who've lost animals and don't have any idea where they are. And she can telepathically contact the animal and find out where it is, and the animal can be rescued. So that's really nice. And so all of these hybrids do a variety of things like channeling information and doing healing work. I think they all do healing work, Reiki healing and other kinds of energy healing like that. And they're all very psychic and it's a telepathic. They're all very spiritually oriented and they help to teach spirituality through their individual appointments and classes and workshops and webinars and conferences. And I mean, they're just using every opportunity to help to upgrade the consciousness of humanity in whichever area they're in. And of course, now with the internet and programs like what we're doing, it enables them to reach far more many people, um, in the world with their perspective from these extraterrestrial beings. So they're all definitely here for service. And some of them, whom I know better than I know the other ones, some of them have uh, found that on occasion they will morph into the kind of being or one of the kinds of beings that they have the genetics of. For instance, Julie and Charmaine, a wonderful hybrid who lives in England, both of those people have had full on body changes into being a full reptilian being. And it may last a few minutes, that change, or it may last a few hours. And it's actually been witnessed by other people. They will attest to that. And I know a woman in Kentucky. We did not interview her for our book, but I truly believe that she's a hybrid. And she sent me some photographs of her morphing into a reptilian being. And the photograph just showed the changes in her face. But she said that's where it begins for her. The morphing begins by the face changing, and then minutes later, the whole body will change
Wow.
into the reptilian form. So you can actually see this happening. Now, these people I'm mentioning right now, and there are a few others who have this, who know that they have this reptilian DNA in them and do the morphing. Um, they've all said that it happens, that change happens at times when there's a lot of energy of emotion that they are feeling. Could be a very good emotion, or it could be a more negative emotion. But when it's intense, there's a lot of energy in that emotion.
That might
That's
be a
when
little
they
scary.
their body's changing.
That might be
Pardon?
a little. That might be a little scary. You're seeing somebody who's very angry and turn into a reptilian.
Yes, yes, it could happen. It could also happen during really intense sexual arousal or intense happiness. Like the woman in Kentucky, that hybrid said that when she is singing opera, she's a not a full-time opera singer, but an amateur, but very dedicated
Right.
opera singer. And at the height of the opera, when the emotion in her and the audience is very, very high, that's when she starts changing. So that's the picture that she sent me of her was at the height of her singing. You can see her singing, and then you can see this part of her face starting to, get the whole reptilian texture.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And yeah, so it's very, and each of these people who have morphed into reptilian beings, they're, well, for first thing, they're absolutely wonderful human beings and hybrids, uh, and and that they are very pleased to experience what it's like to be a reptilian
Mm-hmm.
because they really respect the reptilian. So this has helped me to go from an earlier impression that reptilian beings are to be feared, and
Right.
and so many people were having experiences with them where they're really big, like 7 or 8 feet
Mm-hmm.
tall, very muscular. The masculine ones were very stately and arrogant. Many people describe them as arrogant, and rather fearsome, although they never really had bad experiences with them, according to these regressions. But still, they were very frightened, very impressed. But with these hybrids, the reptilians, they must have the genetics of are one of the non-threatening reptilian species. And I know from my own personal experience with a reptilian who visited me here in my living room in the light of day, some of them are really, really likable and feel infinitely safe.
Well, the
So,
first one I met was like that. I didn't even know what a reptilian was, and I
uh-huh,
met a reptilian, and he was big. I mean, he was like 7 feet. I mean, he was just like what you described, but his energy was just so loving and
yeah,
kind, and his eyes. When I finally could look into his eyes, I saw how kind his eyes were. And I remember going to my friend who kind of guided me through this whole experience. And I'm going, this is the thing that she goes, that's a reptilian. Oh my God. And I'm going, he's so nice.
yeah.
So,
Don't worry about the fact that he's reptilian because they some you see. I think like with probably every group, especially with all the inbreeding that there is,
right.
that there are some reptilian species or subspecies maybe that are really wonderful.
Yeah.
And very, very likable. I felt so safe with this guy. I felt like I mean, I was just walking through my living room from my office that day and thinking I was completely alone in the house. And and then suddenly in the middle of the living room was standing this male reptilian, just standing right there, full technicolor, lots of daylight coming in the room. Anyway, the reason for his visiting me like that, he said, he stayed around for a few minutes, probably at least 5 minutes, probably more, but um, talking to me telepathically, and I could hear everything he said, which I thought later, wow, that's amazing. That I mean, I must have telepathic ability too, if I could hear everything he said, but not with my ears. I never heard a voice out loud. But anyway, he said that he was here to give me my own personal experience when I'm conscious, awake in the light of day, just to validate that these experiences that I was regressing people to were authentic, just in case I had any doubt.
That's good. I'm glad you had that experience. And thank goodness it was a good one.
Oh, yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely good. It was wonderful, and then just suddenly, poofed, he was gone.
Yeah.
He said he comes to validate other experiencers sometimes too, and that he'll come when a person is looking in a mirror, and he'll just be behind and just come up until the person sees his reflection in the mirror, and when he knows the person sees him, poof, he disappears. And that's what he did with me. Poof, he was just gone, and my hand was still out there.
Well, actually, I spent a little more time with mine. He showed me his family and all sorts of things. So, and I've actually had interactions with him since then, quite a bit, and consider him a friend. And so, yeah, yeah,
I would consider this guy a friend too if he came back.
yeah.
I'd like to see him again. Yeah,
Let's just put it out there, Barbara. Come on back.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he made his point. He did his validating, and that's probably all
Says
that he needed to do. But
yeah, he says that's the last time I'm on Earth. I did what I was supposed to do. Get me off this Earth.
yeah. So anyway, the whole hybrid question is very, very important, and I think very significant, and it helps us to really have or certainly be aware of more contact with the extraterrestrial beings. You see, from their point of view, the extraterrestrials, I think no matter who they are aware that there's this incredible universe full of beings, many, many different kinds of beings. And not only this universe, but other universes too, full of various forms of life. So they look at us as being, very retrograde. I mean, that we humans have known so little about this. And even now, more and more of us, like yourself, Gail, are becoming more and more aware of all of this. But basically, most of humanity is not even aware that there's really is life out there, and
Right.
that some of that life comes quite often to visit Earth, whether they realize it or not. But I think people get so very involved in their own lives and whatever the media tells them. And there's just so much going on just to live a life, just to survive in life, and that people don't extend their thought out into space and consider that there are probably billions of other civilizations besides ours.
And there are.
Yeah,
And this is what this channel is about, is trying to normalize people's ET experiences, letting them be comfortable, letting them come forth and talk about it, and
yes.
bring it and to say, yes, you're not crazy, you're okay. that did happen. So to do in this community is bring us together so we can talk about it.
Yes, well, it sounds like you could write a very, very interesting book yourself.
I have written a book, Barbara, but
Oh,
I
yeah.
have so much problems with the editing and the book cover. Maybe you could give me a little direction and help on that. So
I know it really, that part is not really the fun part either, and it um, takes a lot of time.
yeah, Susie's helping me with this, but um, it,
Good.
it is a little bit frustrating on that end. But yeah, I have written a book and I do have information for 3 more to follow.
I
So
bet you do. I bet you do.
yeah, but let's go ahead and we're getting close to the end of the show. Let's talk about your books and the
Okay,
books that you've written. You've got several books that you've written. So can you tell
I
people
do.
the books that you've
Um,
written?
the first book I wrote in the year 2000 is about the crop circle phenomenon because I had been investigating the crop circles in England personally. Well, I did for a total of 25 years. But in the year 2000, I did write a book with a co author, a wonderful woman named Judith Moore, who did channeling about the crop circles, channeling from an 11th dimensional being. So we have that perspective, and then we have all the perspective from my research on the ground as a regular person studying the phenomenon. So that is very interesting. Even today, all these years later, people are still ordering the book and learning a lot from it,
And what's
even
the
though,
name of that book?
oh, oh, thank you. Uh, it's called Crop Circles Revealed, and the subtitle is Language of the Light Symbols. But the main title is Crop Circles Revealed by
And
Barbara
this is
Lamb,
not
Judy Moore.
Yeah, this is a phenomenal story because I'm going to just do a short thing on it. As Barbara was taken on a spaceship, correct? And you were shown how they made the crop circles. So it's extremely interesting. And in fact, that was one of the things I was wanting to get to, which I knew we would never get that far. But so tell us about your next book.
Okay, the next one was 2008. That was a book named uh, Alien Experiences, and it consists of 25 uh, synopses of cases, 25 cases from my regression therapy practice, and um, and then some information for other experiencers. So we chose out of multi hundreds of regressions that I had done, we chose 25 different kinds of extraterrestrial experiences. They're all different from each other, but they're all extraterrestrial encounters. And then the third book was the Meet the Hybrids in 2015.
There's quite a few in the chat that already ordered it, the top said.
Okay. And then the fourth book is for children and for adults who might be looking at that book or reading that book to children. And it's called Kids Adventures with ET Friends in Space. So when we refer to it quickly, we just call it ET Friends. And it's got 18 different kinds of experiences, different scenarios that came out of the work that I have done with children,
Mhm.
their extraterrestrial experiences. And it ends with, I think, a very nice note, how hopefully we will be able to join that galactic federation. And I have a group of extraterrestrials sitting around a table, all cooperating together. And that hopefully we will be able to advance enough to clean up our act enough to be part of that group. So anyway, that is very nice. There's another publisher right now who is very eager to republish that, and and distribute it more widely than it has already been distributed, because she feels, oh, everybody in every country needs to know about this.
Right.
So we love the idea that when an adult, might be a parent, it might be a grandparent, it might be an aunt, an uncle, a babysitter, would be looking at this book and reading the captions to the children, that it might even sort of trigger some memories on their parts,
Right.
that they too have had experiences. And it certainly would open up conversation better for children who are having unusual visitors and don't know how to talk about it. Or they've tried to talk about it to their parents, and their parents have said, oh, that must be your imaginary friend, or that must have been a dream, or you have a big imagination. And so it can bring the reality of these real situations, can bring that out and open up the dialogue with the parents. So I
That's
think,
probably necessary. Yeah.
yeah, we did it to be a service to help more people talk about these things. So each scenario is illustrated with a whole page picture. So you see the child and you see the different kinds of beings in each picture and different sort of things that they're doing with the child. So
Barbara, how can they find your books?
I think the best way, and you can find all of them, is to go to my website. And there is a page there where you can order the books and pay through PayPal. And then PayPal notifies me, and then I send the book with a signature.
And can
And
you tell on your website?
a nice little message with a signature. Yeah, my website is Barbara Lamb Regressions with an S.com. Barbara Lamb Regressions.com. Also, I have quite a few talks on my YouTube channel, which is Barbara Lamb ET Regressions in YouTube. So
You're doing really good, Barbara. Me, I get it all mixed up. What's my website? What's my email address? What's this? You're doing great.
Yeah.
Susie's always correcting me, and she was anxious, and I go, no, but because I'm always getting it wrong. But anyway, Barbara, thanks for coming. I want you to stay on while we're ending the show. If you'll just stay on for a few minutes so we can talk.
Okay.
So thanks everybody for joining us. I appreciate you. This has been wonderful, Barbara. Love your information. I just thoroughly have enjoyed having you on. And yeah, and thanks everybody for coming in today. And we will see y'all tomorrow. Mary will be on. Mary practices shamanism and energy healing, and she comes on once a month with me, and we'll be answering your questions. And that'll be tomorrow, actually 12:30 Pacific time, 3:30 Eastern time. So we'll see y'all tomorrow. All right, bye bye.
Thank you.